The Bordeaux hit Amara's chest like a bullseye. It burst against the gold silk of her gill and ran in red streams down the slope of her wrapper, dripping from the beaded fringe in tiny rubies that sparkled under the chandelier. Conversations froze. Forks hovered mid-air, and the high-life band on the balcony stumbled into silence. In the pause, Lagos recorded a memory. The moment a mistress tilted her glass and poured wine across a wife she had decided no longer mattered. Sloane Hart, flawless in a silver sheath, all polished cheekbones and diamond laugh, didn't step back. She leaned, daring the hall to breathe. "Oops," she said, playing to the cameras that had turned like sunflowers. "Such a clumsy hand, Mrs. Cole. I thought the help handled spills." On the dais, beneath a mammoth LED screen flashing Blue Wave Ports, ex-West African Union, 8.4B transformation, Darius Cole's smile did not fall. It widened. He was the sort of smile people took photos of, a billionaire's smile, assurance polished into cruelty. He glanced down from the stage where he was being honored, and he chuckled into a mic he didn't bother to mute. "Careful, Sloane," he said, lazy and warm. "That fabric costs more than your last campaign." Laughter erupted from places that wanted his favor. Some didn't laugh. Some swallowed, and their throats clicked loud in their own ears. The governor's wife stilled, her hand frozen around a napkin. A senator's aide whispered, "Turn the feed down," and a media intern absolutely did not. On social, hearts bloomed like rash. Hashtags seeded themselves. Lagos lived by spectacle, and this was prime. Amara stood very straight. She did not flinch from the cold wine, or the stares, or the heat of shame that should have risen but did not. Her eyes, cool, steady, shifted past Sloane to Darius. She held his gaze the way a pillar holds a roof up when everyone else thinks it's about to fall. Darius lifted his glass to her. "No hard feelings, sweetheart," he said into the mic, the endearment shaped like a blade. "We all know why you're here." Sloane laughed. Someone actually clapped. The camera found Amara again. The feed cut to a tight shot of the wine bleeding into gold, then climbed to her face. If you watch that clip later, you will see the moment everything turned. You will see Amara lift a hand, not to wipe the stain, but to smooth the edge of her gill, as if aligning a crown. You will see her pick up the slim black clutch she had carried from her car, open it with a precise click, and withdraw a single red envelope the color of palm oil, the kind her grandmother used for messages that mattered. She walked to the nearest mic. In the ballroom of the Eco-Atlantic Convention Center, where the $8.4 billion port concession had just been announced, where the president's convoy still idled outside and 1,000 guests smelled the future in diesel and champagne, Amara Okafor-Cole tapped the microphone once. The room stilled into a held breath. "Good evening," she said, her voice resonant, the vowels of Enugu tucked inside the polish of Atlanta. "I have an administrative update on the Blue Wave Ports agreement." Darius's smile thinned. Sloane's eyes narrowed. A senior partner at Blue Wave's table set down his fork without swallowing. Amara slid the red envelope beneath the mic light. For a heartbeat, the camera caught the gold seal stamped with a lion's head. "By authority vested in the office of the independent chair of the Marula Sovereign Infrastructure Fund," she said, each word careful as a scalpel, and pursuant to Clause 73, known as the Lion Clause, regarding integrity in procurement and fiduciary responsibility, effective this night. The hall seemed to tip. She broke the seal. "The $8.4 billion Blue Wave concession is—" Her eyes lifted once more to Darius, and the cliff's edge appeared, open and shining, with all of Lagos staring down. 3 months earlier, the sea smelled of rain, and victory smelled like grilled suya. Makoko was a map of planks and persistence. Amara walked the narrow boards with a little boy's fingers tucked into hers. Taufik's laughter bounced off water and tin as they followed a woman selling puff-puff past a shack painted the blue of sweet gum. Under the hum of generators and gossip, you could hear, if you listened hard enough, the ache of a city building itself faster than it could breathe. "Why we stand on wood, Auntie Amara?" Taufik asked, peering between the slats as a canoe slid below like a dark thought. "Because sometimes people build on what they have," she said, "until someone gives them a better place to stand." He nodded in a way children do when they are storing something for later. They stopped where the water opened, and the lagoon lifted the sky into its hands. Beyond, cranes wrote shapes against the horizon. Blue wave banners flapped along the temporary fencing of the construction site like aggressive prayers. "This port," said the site manager, joining her on the platform, "will change everything." "Change," said Amara, "has a cost." She watched a barge creep between pylons, men as small as toothpicks moving in choreography learned under pressure. The port was a dream drawn in decimal points: jobs, rail, logistics, power. The West African Union's infrastructure slate had staggered under corruption for decades. The Marula Sovereign Infrastructure Fund had been created to rewrite the script. Its board had fought to be independent. To land one deal this clean was to prove a continent could make itself new. "Your husband must be proud," the manager added, a kindly assumption. Amara smiled and did not correct her. In Atlanta once, a professor at Spelman had told her, "You will have to choose a crown, but you can wear it in different ways." In Washington, a senator had said, "You will have to learn not to apologize for walking in like you own the room when you actually do." In Enugu, her grandmother had said, "A lioness does not borrow a lion's roar. She has her own." Amara wore her crown quietly. On paper, she was chief ethics counsel for the fund. In reality, when the first chair died suddenly in a crash gone too quiet too quickly, and her vice resigned for health reasons, and the board splintered, the charter permitted the independent counsel to serve as interim chair, voted in by a 2/3 emergency quorum. The quorum had happened. Quietly, carefully, with signatures like prayers, and the charter held a clause, almost never spoken aloud. Clause 73. In the event that integrity risk threatens a project above a certain threshold, the chair could suspend or cancel without a full board vote. They called it the Lion Clause because you did not invoke it unless something or someone had to be taught fear. Amara kept that knowledge as you keep an antidote, hoping never to use it and keeping it close. At night, she returned to the Ikoyi house where silence had learned the shape of her body. The house had been a wedding gift from Darius, monolithic white and glass, more magazine spread than home. The staff moved like shadow remedies. The pool threw light against the ceiling in slow waves. The bed was wider than some rooms she had grown up in. Darius flew in and out like weather. He brought news and champagne, and the scent of other cities along with his tailored suits. He had been the American wunderkind who turned logistics into an algorithm people paid worship money for. Blue Wave was his new continent-sized trick. Ports that would talk to trains, that would talk to trucks, that would talk to phones, that would talk to markets that had been trapped behind bad roads and worse politics. "Baby," he said one night, dropping a kiss on her cheek that smelled of bourbon and applause, "the president himself will come to the gala. We are making history." "We," she said. We, he agreed, eyes soft with a charm that had worked on whole rooms. Who better? The fund needs private skill. Private skill needs the fund's shield. Think power couples, Obama and Michelle vibes, Lagos royalty. Sloane appeared as a rumor first, then as a perfume that lingered after Darius left a room, then as a tag in photos that were always not quite proof. Finally, as a woman walking beside him into an art opening, her hand light on his arm, her laugh not at all shy. Amara saw the video on a Tuesday. Someone had sent it without a note. Sloane's voice was sugar that could cut your tongue. "Come with me to Accra," she said to Darius in the clip, camera catching them from behind a bronze mask sculpture. "I'm bored in Lagos." "I can't," he said. The corners of his mouth turned down in a way he thought looked loyal. "My wife is hosting a thing." "That's cute," said Sloane. "We'll be careful." At breakfast, Amara folded a dish towel into a square you could bounce a coin on. "There's a video," she said when Darius drifted in, buttoning his cuff. "People publish lies hourly," he said, not looking up. "It isn't a lie." He did look up then, and for a small moment there was a crack, small as a hairline, between the man he had been and the man he liked being better. It was gone before she could put a finger in it. "You're important to the optics," he said gently, like a surgeon apologizing for a necessary cut. "We can talk after the gala. Don't embarrass me." She watched him walk out like someone rehearsing, leaving so many times he forgets to stop when the performance ends. At the fund offices, a courier arrived with a package wrapped in brown paper and string. Inside was a flash drive labeled with a single word in block letters: proof. Amara stood at the window and watched the island curve in a green-blue throat as she considered whether to break it. She had learned, growing up between the rules of one country and the hunger of another, that proof is only as good as the hands that hold it. She plugged the drive in. It held three things: a summary of shell companies routed through clear waters and murky names, a photo of Sloane leaving a certain apartment in Vice at dawn wearing Darius' black hoodie, and a fourth-hand whisper twisted into second-hand fact, audio from a dinner where a certain senator discussed greasing a board that did not take grease. Two of the three mattered professionally. One mattered personally. One made the other two matter more. She called Kelechi, her oldest friend, who had learned to fix phones in primary school and went on to break ciphers for fun. He answered with the tinny echo of a Danfo bus. "I need you to validate 3 files," she said. Quietly. "Is it your man?" "It is my project." "I hear you," he said, which meant he did. That night, the storm came with the fury Lagos saves for those who think they control it. The pool slapped at its edges. Palm fronds wrote curses on the glass. Amara stood barefoot on the marble and let herself be the only witness to her own heart. In the morning, there was a new gift on the kitchen counter, an emerald choker perfectly indifferent to the fact that it was an apology. She did not wear it. She did wear her authority, like breath. The days lined up and knocked themselves down. The procurement audit came back with a clean initial pass. Her own digging on the shell companies found they were legal but designed to be confusing, which is not the same as corrupt, but could make a decent man look like a liar from certain angles. The audio, enhanced by Kelechi until a mumble was a shape, was not a board member's voice after all. They had, it seemed, kept their shields up. It would have been easier to breathe if the other thing did not exist. Darius and Sloane like a fever in the city's story. They appeared at a rooftop party where people wore their ambition like perfume. They walked through a new gallery like a pair of answers. They were photographed leaving a private airport hangar with a blur of hands holding a scarf over hair that didn't need it. The day before the gala, the governor's office called to confirm seating and security. The president's advance team confirmed a brief appearance and a tightly controlled toast. The press list confirmed itself every hour. "Wear the green," Darius suggested, breezing through to grab cufflinks and drop a kiss that landed like a memo. "It makes you look generous." "Generous," she repeated, and he did not hear the salt under it. The gala opened with drums that sounded like heartbeats. The stage was a geometry of screens and flags and ambition. Tables gleamed with names arranged like chess pieces. Waiters moved with the balletic caution of people who know a spilled drink can ruin a career. Amara felt the prickle at the back of her neck before she saw Sloane. Women know when another woman's eyes have found their face. Sloane crossed the room with a grace that might have been born or bought. Darius beside her, in a tux the color of "Forgive me." It did not matter which of them smiled first. The cameras made it mutual. The program unfurled itself. Speeches oiled the air. The band played something old enough to make elders sway. The president arrived and departed to a storm of flash. And then, with a casualness that should have warned everyone it was calculated, Darius called Sloane onto the stage to thank her for creative direction on the branding campaign. Sloane, bright as a mercenary angel, waved. Amara did not look away. Later, in the aisle between tables, Sloane approached with her glass and her plan. "You have already seen what happened next. You will see it again in your mind for a long time. The tilt, the red flood, the sound the room made as it tried to decide what kind of place it was. And then Amara, at the microphone, the envelope a red flame in a ballroom of gold. The $8.4 billion Blue Wave concession is..." Something moved at the edge of the stage. Not security, not staff. Darius stepped down from the dais with the practiced ease of a man who could talk a country into forgetting what it had seen. "Amara," he said, voice lower now, because he knew microphones and optics and the precise angle of a contrite shoulder. "Let's take a moment. Don't do anything you can't undo." She raised a brow. "You think I arrived by accident?" He reached for her elbow. Sloane pivoted, smile gone like a light not paid for. The board members began to rise, unsure whether history was about to put their names in bold or bury them in small print. The envelope lay open. The letter within breathed against the mic light. If you stood close enough, you could read the words, "Pursuant to Clause 73, immediate termination, integrity risk, reputational harm, re-tendering process." In the back of the room, Kelechi, in a suit that didn't know it was rented, sent a text. "Ready when you are." One word. "Send?" Amara looked to the balcony where the band had fallen silent, to the side door where the president's security whispered into sleeves, to the screen above them, all where the partnership graphic waited for affirmation, like a child waiting to be told it could live. She lifted the letter. "Is hereby..." The lights flickered. A gasp rose, as if pulled by wire. On the LED screen, the Blue Wave graphic glitched, just a stutter, then stabilized. In that flicker, for a frame no one could screenshot, a different logo appeared. Guara Holdings. 3 rings intertwined. A company registered in Mauritius last month. A company threaded, by one careful error, into a supply chain for Blue Wave's cranes. A company owned by Sloane Hart's Trust. Kelechi's message came again, urgent this time. "Send?" Darius's fingers tightened on her elbow, softer than force, stronger than plea. "Don't be petty," he murmured for her alone. "You will ruin us all. The fund, The country. Me. She breathed once, twice, the way you do before you dive. In that breath, everything lined up. The boy's question in Makoko, the grandmother's lion, the dollar signs like mirrors, the red wine sliding like a curse, the laughter, the apology emerald, the cameras, the clause that almost no one believed would ever be used. She turned the letter toward the mic, and the hall leaned forward as one organism. Is hereby... Her phone buzzed in her clutch with a third message. Not Kelechi. Unknown number. Check your email, Chair. She did not look. Not yet. Her mouth shaped the next word. The one that would teach the room what kind of place it was. And then, before the syllable could leave her tongue, the side doors blew open, and a figure in a drenched security jacket stumbled in, carrying something wrapped in plastic, eyes wild. "Madam Chair!" he shouted above the intake of breath. "There's been a breach at the containers. Blue Wave Yard C. You need to see this now." The room split into noise. Amara lowered the letter by a fraction. Her gaze flicked to the security man's trembling hands, to the rectangle under the plastic, documents, drives, cash, to Darius's face, which had done a new thing. It had gone still in a way that said fear had finally arrived and taken a seat. Sloane stepped back, shoes whispering against marble. "Madam Chair," the guard repeated, voice cracking on the second word. "They were moving equipment. Off manifest. We stopped one truck. Inside." He swallowed, as if the word would break his teeth. "Guns." The mic picked up the last syllable like an omen. The cameras forgot to breathe. The band forgot they had hands. Lagos, watching in 10,000 living rooms, leaned forward until couches creaked. Amara looked once at the red envelope under the light. Once at Darius, who had finally stopped smiling. Once at the doors where rain hammered the steps like a drum of war. She lifted the letter again with one hand. With the other, she reached into her clutch for her phone. On its screen, 2 messages waited like fuses. Send? And an email subject line from unknown. Guara Holdings. Beneficial owner. Darius Cole. The hall seemed to pivot on the head of a pin. Amara raised her eyes to the room. To the cameras. To the continent watching. Terminated, she said, or she did not. Because at that exact second, the lights cut to black, and the ballroom fell into a darkness so complete that everyone felt, for a heartbeat that tasted like metal, what it was to be without power, while power decided what it would do next. The darkness in the ballroom felt alive. It wasn't only the lights going out, it was the way 1,000 breaths cut short at once. Chairs scraped. A glass rolled and cracked. Somewhere, a woman's voice trembled into a prayer. The city's sound pressed against the walls. The hiss of rain. The far horn of a ship. Tires on wet road. Like Lagos itself had leaned its ear to the door. Then the generators rumbled awake. Emergency lights blinked to life in weak amber bars, turning the room into a sketch of itself. Faces smeared with shadow, tuxedos turned to ink, diamonds blinking like watching eyes. Amara held her place at the microphone with the letter in one hand and her phone in the other. She tasted metal, as if fear had a flavor. She didn't let it show. "Remain seated," she said, voice steady. "Security will guide your exit in an orderly fashion." Darius stood too close, his cologne trying to sell a different story. He touched her elbow again, softer now. "You can fix this in the morning," he murmured, keeping his mouth still, like someone who understood cameras even when they were blind. "Don't blow up a nation tonight." A uniformed officer reached the stage stairs. "Madam Chair," he said, his chest rising and falling too fast beneath the jacket that was still wet from outside. "We have men on Yard C. The truck is secured." But the drivers ran. The band, clustered like a flock in the balcony, stared down at the scene. Sloane stood a little behind Darius, chin lifted, eyes glittering. On another night, she could have passed for a statue in a museum. Elegant and cold, a story curated by herself. Tonight, there was a small tear in the edge of the story. The corners of her mouth wouldn't stay still. Amara glanced at the LED screen where Blue Wave Ports had steadied again. The brief ghost of Guara Holdings gone as if it had never existed. Her phone buzzed in her hand. Kelechi's message read, "Guara documents verified. Owners traced. One layer left. Dirty. Almost there." She breathed once and made a decision the way she always did, by lining up facts like stones across a river and stepping where the water ran darkest. She folded the termination letter without reading the word that waited at its end. She slipped it into the red envelope, and when she spoke, her voice carried the room back from the cliff. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, "for your safety and ours, the program will pause. Please remain seated. Security will escort you in sections." A wave of noise rose. Questions, anger, relief. Darius leaned in again, voice low. "You just blinked," he said, almost tender, like he approved. "You see? There's nothing to—" "Don't test how long I can hold my eyes open," she said without turning her head. Two members of the fund's board approached. Ms. Asha Mensa, from Accra, black gown, braided crown, spine straight, and Senator Ibrahim Obaniyi, older and careful, eyes measuring everything they could save. "What do you have?" Asha asked, no preamble. "A truck impounded at Yard C," Amara said. "Off manifest movement. The word guns." Asha's jaw tightened. "And the letter?" "In my hand." Amara lifted the envelope a fraction. "Clause 73 doesn't fly on rumor. We move, but we move with proof." Senator Obani glanced at Darius. "Mr. Cole," he said, voice mild, "you will of course send your chief security officer to meet ours at the yard." Darius had the grace to nod. "Of course." Sloane slid a smile into the gap. "And a statement," she said smoothly. "We can draft one within the hour. Power outage, abundance of caution, security incident at an unrelated site." She let the words stack like neat bricks. "We control the narrative." Amara turned. "You're listed as creative lead on Blue Wave's branding. Are you also listed as an owner of Guara Holdings?" Sloane's smile held. "I don't know what that is." "You will," Amara said. The board members traded a look. Senator Obaniyi lifted a hand. "We should convene in a side room." Amara nodded. 5 minutes. She stepped to the microphone once more. "Security will now escort tables 1 through 5. She kept her eyes on the crowd until the room began to move like a slow tide instead of a panic. In the corridor behind the stage, the air smelled of wet cables and cologne. A staffer rushed up, phone held in front of her like a small torch. "Ma, the media teams are asking." "Tell them the chair will address press at midnight. 10 minutes. No questions." Asha paused, one hand on Amara's forearm. "If the yard holds guns, we terminate tonight." "And if the yard holds nothing?" Senator Obaniyi asked, though his voice suggested he believed it did. "Then we have a death wish in Lagos," Asha said, "and names will be on it." Amara raised her phone to her ear. "Kelechi." "Say the word, and I crash Blue Wave's glossy with those Guara files," he said, voice brisk, the sound of danfos and rain swallowed by the line. "It will ride every screen in Lagos in 2 minutes." "Hold," she said. "I want to see the inside of the truck." Copy. She ended the call and turned to the security officer who had brought the news. He was young, his face set in an angle between fear and duty. "Get me to Yard C," she said. "Now." "Now." "I'll come," Asha said. Senator Obani exhaled. "I will field the press and keep the president's team from fleeing in the wrong direction." As Amara and Asha started for the service exit, Darius stepped in front of them. The hallway was narrow enough that his body made a wall. "You can't go to the yard," he said, still soft. "It's raining. It's dark. It's beneath your office." "That office is on top of a port," she said. "Move." His eyes searched her face, looking for a weak plank. He made one last attempt to find it. "Whatever you think you saw on that screen, it wasn't real." "What I saw," she said, "was a shadow where honesty should be." He stepped aside. Sloane's perfume trailed behind them as they passed. Something like anger flashed across Sloane's face. Hot, quick, revealing. Amara and Asha followed the security officer down a stairwell where the emergency lights hummed like hornets. Outside, the rain felt like a curtain of glass. Their car, a black SUV with the fund's discreet crest, waited, engine already running. The driver, lean and silent, opened the rear door. As they slid in, water clung to their gowns in dark maps. The convoy moved fast through Echo Atlantic, past towers wrapped in blue light, past the black water shouldering the shore. The city stretched, glittering and wet. A hawker, with a stack of phone cases on his head, pressed back from the road as the cars hissed past. A police truck fanned muddy spray. The rain softened to a steady drum as they reached the gates. Yard C smelled like diesel, wet salt, and metal. Floodlights turned the rain into strings of light. Stacks of containers rose like buildings in a half-built city. Men in blue rain jackets stood in small groups, radios crackling. The impounded truck sat under a shed, water pooling beneath its wheels. The security officer led them through, past a guard shack where a television played a football replay that no one watched. They reached the truck's rear, where a heavy lock hung open like a knocked-out tooth. Two guards stood on either side of the doors, hands on rifles, eyes fixed forward. "Madam Chair," the older of the guards said, voice steady, "we haven't opened it yet. Waiting for you." "Camera?" Amara asked. A young man with a body camera nodded. "Recording." "Manifest?" Asha asked. The officer held out papers in a clear sleeve. "Listed as industrial water pumps for test run. Destination? Blue Wave Workshop 4. "Whose signature cleared it?" Asha said. He tapped a name at the bottom. "Supervisor, night shift. Signed half an hour after lights went out at Gala." Asha's mouth pressed into a line. Amara stepped to the edge of the truck's shadow. The rain sang on the metal roof. "Open it," she said. The guards heaved back the doors. The smell hit first. Oil, cut wood, a faint metallic tang that didn't belong to pumps. Asha lifted a sleeve to her nose. The camera light caught long, dark shapes stacked in wooden crates. The nearest crate had been pried partly open already, its lid sitting crooked like a hat pushed back too far. Inside, neatly nestled in foam, lay a disassembled rifle, barrel, stock, receiver, each wrapped in oiled paper, clean and cold. Asha swore under her breath, in twi. The young guard took a small step back, chin lifting on instinct. Amara didn't move. She leaned in and looked. Weapons can look like toys when they're in pieces. These didn't. Numbers glinted. She slid a glove on, standard issue in the security kit, and peeled the paper back to reveal a serial number etched like a secret. "Write it," she said to the cameraman. He did. She nodded to the second crate. It held the same. The third, the same. In the fourth, Beneath a shelf of parts lay a flat, black case. Amara reached for it, then stopped. "Record me," she said. The camera light steadied on her. She opened the case. Documents lay inside, dry in plastic sleeves. A bill of lading with a QR code, a stack of invoices stamped paid in a font someone had chosen to look official, and a letter on blue wave letterhead authorizing urgent testing of prototype security equipment for port perimeter integrity. Asha took the letter and held it under the camera. "This is not signed by anyone in security," she said. "This signature," she looked harder, "looks like the chief procurement officer's name, but the R bends wrong." "Forgery," the elder guard said, and the word felt like a crack spreading. Amara lifted the bill of lading. The QR code sat like a trap. "Get me a scanner," she said. The young guard handed her a rugged phone. She scanned. A link opened to an internal Blue Wave portal. Access denied unless you had a certain badge. The device pinged and flashed a routing chain, a breadcrumb trail through logistics firms with pretty names and empty offices. At the bottom, a 3-ring logo, Guara Holdings, pulsed once and vanished. Asha's eyes cut to Amara's. She didn't ask a question. She didn't have to. "Freeze the truck," Amara said. "No one touches anything. Call Navy, call Customs, and call the Inspector General. Get independent eyes on this, now." The elder guard's jaw tightened. "Yes, Ma." "Get the serial numbers of every weapon," Amara added. "I want them checked against border seizures and any conflict registries. I also want the supervisor who signed release, here, in front of me." A second truck rolled by slowly, its driver staring. Out beyond the stacks, the lagoon slapped the key. The city felt very near and very far at once. A phone vibrated in Asha's hand. She looked down, then up. "Press is bleeding," she said. "Someone leaked that you used the word terminate. They're asking if the West African Union just lost its biggest deal." Amara inhaled through her nose. "Tell them the West African Union is about to keep its soul." The young guard shifted, nervous energy leaking into his fingers. "Madam Chair, there's one more thing." He gestured toward a smaller crate set apart from the others. The lid was not just open, it had been ripped. Inside, wrapped in the same careful paper, lay 3 handguns with their serial numbers filed. Beneath them, like a snake in sleeping clothes, a bundle of dollars. Fresh, strapped with bank paper that read 100. Beside the cash, a laminated card. A visitor's pass to Blue Wave HQ. The name printed in black. Sloan Hart. The date. The previous Thursday. Asha let out a slow breath. This just went from rumor to blood. Footsteps pounded. The security officer returned with a man whose rain jacket was open, tie askew, eyes darting. "Supervisor," the officer said, pushing the man forward. The supervisor's name tag read K. Ajayi. He was in his 40s, thin, sweat fighting the rain on his face. He kept trying to focus on one thing and failing. "Who authorized this truck?" Asha asked, crisp. My boss," he stammered. "Procurement. He said, move it because the test, the president's visit, everything must look tight." He swallowed. I signed. I'm so—" "What is your boss's name?" Amara asked. "Mr. Onanuga," he said. "Please, I didn't—" "Phone," Amara said. He hesitated. The guard took it and placed it in her glove. She touched the screen. No passcode. The call log had 3 recent calls to a number saved as Boss Night. The last one, 20 minutes ago. Asha's phone rang again. "Ibrahim," she said into the receiver. She listened. "Yes. Yes. Hold them in the ballroom a little longer. No statements yet." Make them wait. Amara's phone buzzed once, twice. Kelechi. Confirmed. Guara Shell connects to Seaward Exports, then to Clear River Logistics, then to, guess who, Blue Wave's Special Projects budget line, and a flagged transfer 2 days ago. Also, unknown who emailed you pinged me with a drop. Beneficial owner, Doc. It's him, Mara. It's D. The rain softened. Somewhere nearby, a ship's horn moaned low. The city's lights bounced off clouds like a warning. Madam Chair, the elder guard said, Navy and Customs are 5 minutes out. Good, Amara said. She lifted the red envelope again, the paper gone soft with wet and pressure. Clause 73 felt like a weight in her hand, a law sharpened to a blade. Police pickup lights swung into the yard. The convoy shook puddles into glitter. Men in darker uniforms jumped down, boots stomping mud, posture changing the air. The Inspector General's deputy, a solid man with deep-set eyes, took in the crates with one look that said he had seen every shape of trouble before this one and respected each of them. You did well to hold, he said to Amara. We take custody now. We will log while you witness. You will log while the world witnesses, Asha said. The deputy nodded once. Amara looked at the camera. Timestamp, she said to the young man. Record this note. As of 21:43 hours, Yard C, Blue Wave concession site, a truck marked as carrying water pumps has been opened in the presence of the chair of the Marula Sovereign Infrastructure Fund, a member of the board, Navy, Customs, and Police. Inside are weapons and forged documents. The visitor pass bears the name of Ms. Sloane Hart. She paused. We will proceed to examine the bills and route of payment. The words sat clean in the air, even as rain tried to soften everything. Her phone vibrated again. Unknown number. She stared at it for a second and let it ring, jaw tightening. The deputy made a small gesture, and his men began to work. Numbers, photos, the dance of process. A siren sounded closer, then cut. A black sedan slid into the yard and stopped too smoothly. Darius stepped out first into the rain, an umbrella opening above him as if the night itself had done him the favor. Sloane followed, 2 steps behind, hair perfect in the wet. This is a misunderstanding, Darius said into the yard, like it belonged to him. These are training props. Someone moved the wrong truck. The deputy didn't blink. Training props with serial numbers and filed pistols? Darius gave a soft, regretful smile. Someone made an error. And the visitor pass? Asha asked, holding the laminated card in the plastic sleeve as if it might drip poison. Sloane's lips curled at one edge. My face gets me into rooms. That pass gets me into corridors. Both are useful. Neither loads guns. Amara stepped forward, red envelope still in one hand. Tell me about Guara Holdings, she said, pitching her voice so only they would hear. Darius didn't move. Rain dotted his eyelashes. A vendor down the chain. Someone will lose their job. Someone? She said. Or you. He lifted his chin. You learned a few tricks in Atlanta and D.C., and now you think you can stop men who use nations like monopoly boards? She said. Yes. For the first time, openly. His eyes hardened. He breathed out through his nose, slow. If you kill this deal, the jobs die with it. The tracks we promised, the power, the hope. You will look like a queen walking across a board as pawns fall. If hope is built on a gun truck in the dark, she said, then it is not hope. He held her gaze as if force could travel by line of sight. Then he shifted, soft again, tying old threads back into a bow. Come home with me, he said. Don't do this here. Not like this. Don't be the woman who made her people poor to prove a point. His hand lifted, almost like he might touch her cheek. "You love them," he said quietly. "I know you do." "And you love yourself," she said, gentler than she felt. Sloane's eyes flicked between them, measuring a war whose map she had joined late. A siren wailed once more at the yard's edge. Another car, another man in a suit, another slice of the city's machine. Amara looked down at the envelope. The paper was soft now, but the clause inside was hard. She raised her eyes to the camera. "Keep rolling," she said. And then her phone buzzed, hard, like a knock. Unknown number again. She picked up, finally, because the night felt like a net, and it was tightening. "Amara Okafor-Cole?" A voice with Lagos in it and something else. Sand, maybe, or smoke. "Yes." "You like to walk on boards over water, don't you?" the voice said. He did not wait. "Listen well. You will go back to your party. You will say the truck was a misunderstanding. You will toast Blue Wave. You will go home. You will sleep. And you will leave the funds chair by Friday." Amara's mouth opened on a law. She didn't speak it. The voice chuckled. "It's not only money that moves in a port," he said. "People move too. Children move. You remember that boy, Taufik, from Makoko?" He didn't pause. "He came to the port this evening to watch the cranes. He has quick eyes. He saw the wrong thing." The yard seemed to tilt. "What did you do?" Amara asked, each word wrapped in something steady so it wouldn't shake. "Not yet much," the voice said. "For now, he is in a room with a smell he doesn't like. He is crying. You can stop his crying. You know how." Asha read Amara's face and took one step closer, eyes narrowing. "Proof," Amara said, the word flat. "You called a lawyer. Show me what you claim." There was a laugh that had no humor in it. Then the crackle of a switch on a cheap phone. Then audio, muffled sobs, a child's hiccuping breath, someone saying, "Hush, now," in a voice that should have been kind, and was not. A man muttered in Yoruba, "Hold him small. He go stop soon." A boy cried out for Auntie Amara, using a voice that sliced her open and named where to cut. The line clicked back to the handler. "Do as I say, and he goes back to the water in the morning," the man said. "If not—" He made a small sound, the kind that follows bad news to a door. "Where is he?" Amara asked, and she heard the ice in her voice and didn't recognize it. "A place where trucks go to sleep," the voice said, satisfied with his riddle. "You have till dawn." The call ended. Amara lowered the phone like it weighed the same as the truck. For a second, the world narrowed to rain on metal, lights on puddles, the smell of oil and paper and fear. Asha touched her elbow, a mirror of the gesture Darius had used. But her hand meant the opposite. "What is it?" Amara's mouth worked. "They took Taufik," she said, and the name came out like she had dragged it through her ribs. "They want me to bless the deal and resign." Asha's face went bare, all politics stripped out. "We move," she said. "Right now. Quiet. Fast." Darius heard. He pivoted, eyes sharpening, not out of mercy, but because he knew leverage when it screamed in a yard. "Who is Taufik?" he asked, the name awkward in his mouth. "Someone your cranes have to answer to," Amara said. Sloane looked bored for one blink too long before she remembered the shape of concern. "This city is full of sob stories," she said softly, almost kindly. "Tonight is not the night to adopt one." Asha made a small sound that carried more threat than an army. She turned to the deputy. "We need a covert sweep of all outbuildings within a 5-kilometer radius, places where trucks go to sleep." The deputy nodded once. "I know where he means." Amara stared at Darius. Rain ran from her eyelashes and made no difference. "If one hair on that boy's head is harmed," she said, "you will wish all you lost tonight was a contract." He spread his hands, palms up. "You think I ordered a kidnap? In what universe?" "In a universe where your hands never get dirty," she said, "but everything you eat tastes like soil." He flinched, as if the words had found skin. For a second he didn't speak. Then he did, careful. "Let me help find him," he said. "You have my word." "Your word," Amara said, "is the reason we're here." She turned to Asha. "We can't announce termination until the boy is safe," she said. Hating the words but knowing the map. "We lock the yard. We bring in third parties. We hold the press. We move for the child." Asha nodded. "We do all of that. But we also freeze Blue Wave's access to everything from now." The deputy made a sign to his men. New urgency, new shape. Radios crackled. The yard began to learn it had a new task. Amara slid the red envelope back into her clutch. Clause 73 waited like thunder. She put the phone against her heart for one breath, as if it could hear that it mattered what it did next. And then she spoke aloud. To the yard, to the board, to the cameras, to the city. "As of this moment," she said, "Blue Wave operations are frozen. No trucks move, no passes admit, no cranes lift. Navy and Customs have full cooperation. We will speak at midnight," she added, turning to Asha. "And we will say only what is true. There is an investigation. We will not tell them about a boy." Her voice did not break on that last word. It barely bent. Asha's eyes warmed, fierce. "We're going to find him." Darius stood very still in the rain, as if he wanted a version of the camera that could paint him brave. Sloane stepped close to him, her hand on his sleeve, a grip that looked soft and was not. The deputy spoke into his radio. "All units, sweep for outbuildings, truck parks, lay-bys, abandoned workshops. Look for a small boy, dark shirt, short hair, quiet. Do not spook." The rain went softer, as if tired. The yard's lights hummed. Somewhere, beyond the fence, Lagos kept selling puff-puff and stories and hope, because it had to. Amara's phone buzzed once more. A new message from unknown lit the screen with a photo of a door painted the color of sea. A rusted handle. A number hand-scrawled on the wood. 12. In the corner of the frame, you could see the edge of a tire and the hem of a small trouser. Beneath the photo, one word. Tick. A cold ran through Amara that had nothing to do with rain. She closed her hand around the phone. She looked at the deputy. "We start at Abebe Truck Park," she said. "And we start now." "On it," he said, already moving. Darius took a step toward her. "Let me come." "You will go back to the ballroom," she said, "and you will wait." "What if the press—" "You will tell them that the chair is doing her job," she said, "and that you are doing yours by obeying the freeze. If you break it, I will sign this letter in the back of a police truck and read it on a megaphone." His jaw tightened. "You always like to make things hard." "No," she said, turning away, already walking into the rain and the plan. "You did." Asha matched her stride. The deputy's men fell in around them, radios low, eyes up. The young guard with the body camera took one step and then two. Rain on his lashes, camera red light reflected in each drop. The convoy engines coughed alive. Above them, beyond them, Lagos flickered. One light failing, another coming on, a city refusing to go dark all the way. They climbed into the SUV, doors thumping shut like drumbeats. As the car turned toward the gate, Amara looked back once at Yard C, the open truck like a cut, the crates like ribs, the money like proof, the pass like a fingerprint. And then she faced front, into the rain, into the road where children's feet had learned to run and stop and run again. Her phone vibrated a final time as they reached the gate. Another photo, this one closer, a boy's eye, wet and wide. The message under it said, "Dawn." The gate swung open. The convoy rolled out into the night. Rain blurred the night into streaks of silver as Amara's convoy tore through the industrial belt of Lagos. The SUV's wipers flung sheets of water aside, but the downpour refused to be pushed back. Lagos didn't stop for storms. It only reshaped them. Inside the vehicle, Amara sat between Asha and the Inspector General's deputy. Her jaw was tight, her hands steady around her phone. The photo of Taufik's terrified eye burned against the screen. "We'll start at a Bebe truck park," the deputy said, his voice clipped. "It's the biggest rest point between the concession road and the lagoon. If they're hiding him in a cargo unit, that's where." Asha leaned forward. "How many units?" 200. Maybe more. Silence followed, thick as the rain. Amara finally spoke, low but sure. "They think they can make me choose between a contract and a child." She turned toward the window, her reflection pale against the passing floodlights. "They've never met a woman who can protect both." The deputy's radio crackled. "Unit 5 in position. Approaching Abebe now. 2 trucks parked outside Warehouse 12. Warehouse 12. Amara's blood froze. That was the number painted on the door in the photo. "Tell them to hold," she said immediately. "Do not engage until I arrive." The deputy relayed the order. The rain roared harder, as if it had heard her. The convoy reached the truck park 20 minutes later. Rows of container warehouses loomed in the dark, their tin roofs glittering under sodium lamps. Pools of water turned the ground into a mirror, where every flash of light doubled the danger. "Stay back," the deputy warned. "We don't know how many men they have." "I'm not staying in the car," Amara said, already unbuckling her belt. Asha tried to stop her, but Amara's tone left no room for negotiation. "That boy called my name," she said quietly. "He trusted that name. I can't let him cry in the dark while I sit behind tinted glass." The deputy hesitated, then handed her a small body radio. "Stay behind me," he said. They moved toward the warehouse. The number 12 glowed faintly on the rusted door. 2 men stood near a parked truck, smoking beneath the awning, their postures lazy but watchful. The deputy gestured. 2 officers split right, 2 left. A silent signal. Then, flashlights on. The sudden beams cut the night open. "Police!" the deputy barked. "Hands where we can see them!" One guard dropped his cigarette in panic. The other ran. Gunfire cracked once, short, sharp. Sparks flew off a container. The man went down, leg wound, cursing in Yoruba. Officers swarmed forward. The deputy kicked the door open. Inside, the warehouse smelled of damp metal and fear. Rows of crates lined the walls, and somewhere near the back came the muffled sound of a sob. "Taufik!" Amara called. A small, trembling voice answered, "Auntie Amara!" She broke into a run. The deputy's hand shot out, but she was already moving, dodging crates, her heels splashing through puddles. She reached a storage cage at the far end. Inside, a boy of 8 sat on the floor, wrists tied, eyes swollen from crying. Amara dropped to her knees. "It's okay," she whispered, cutting the rope with a pocket knife one of the officers handed her. "You're safe now." The boy clung to her neck. "They said you'd forget me," he cried. "Never," she said. The deputy's voice came from behind. "We found 2 more men hiding in the truck, both armed. Take them alive," Amara said coldly. They'll talk. Taufik looked up at her. Auntie, I saw a big white paper. The man said it has your name. What paper? He pointed to a table near the crates. A plastic envelope lay there, still dry. Amara picked it up. Inside was a typed note, short, taunting. You move fast, Madam Chair, but power moves faster. You can save one boy. Can you save the nation when we turn the lights out? Below the message was a printed seal, Blue Wave Ports, Private Operations Division. Asha joined her, reading over her shoulder. They're not just smuggling weapons. They're planning something larger. Amara folded the letter slowly, her hands deliberate, controlled. Then we stop them before they start. The deputy approached. We'll take the suspects to the station. You should return to the city, ma'am. It's not safe here. Amara shook her head. Not yet. She turned to one of the guards being restrained. Who gave the order to take the boy? The man spat rainwater. You're already dead, madam. Everyone in this city eats from the same hand. You just don't know whose. Amara's expression didn't change. Then I'll cut off the hand. The man laughed once, harshly. You think a clause in a paper will save you? No, she said quietly. But the truth will. By dawn, the rain had stopped. The horizon glowed bruised orange. Taufik sat in the back seat of the SUV, wrapped in Asha's shawl, eyes heavy but safe. The convoy drove back toward Echo Atlantic. Amara stared ahead, her mind racing. Every road led back to one man, Darius Cole. The evidence pointed to him like an arrow made of blood and data. She opened her phone. Kelechi had sent a final file. Beneficial Ownership Guara, PDF. Inside, the document confirmed everything. Guara Holdings was registered under Seaward Exports Limited. Seaward Exports was owned by a Delaware entity named Cole Strategic Partners. The signature of incorporation belonged to Darius Cole. Asha leaned over her shoulder. He tied every knot himself. Amara exhaled, long and slow. Then we'll pull until the whole web comes down. She looked back at Taufik, now asleep against the window. No one will ever use a child as leverage in my country again. The deputy's radio crackled. Update from Echo Convention Center. Media storm growing. Mr. Cole already issued a statement. Says Blue Wave is cooperating fully with authorities and that certain officials acted without proper authorization. He's shifting blame, Asha said bitterly. Amara nodded. Then it's time I speak for myself. She pulled out the red envelope, now dried and wrinkled, but still sealed with her resolve. Tonight, at midnight, I'll read this letter publicly. Not in a ballroom, outside the fund headquarters, before every camera that wants the truth. Asha's eyes widened. You'll go against him live? Yes, Amara said. He humiliated me in public. I'll correct him in public. And when I do, every person who ever thought silence was strength will remember this night. The deputy nodded slowly. It will shake the continent. That's the point, Amara replied. To wake it up. She glanced once more at the sky where clouds still smoldered from the storm. Because the next time someone tries to pour wine on a woman to prove she's small, she'll remember that the lioness doesn't roar to scare prey. She looked straight ahead. She roars to remind the forest who owns the silence. And with that, the convoy sped toward the city, toward the fight that would end everything they thought untouchable. By 11:30, the rain had thinned to a mist that made Lagos shine like it had been polished for judgment. Floodlights washed the plaza outside the Marula Sovereign Infrastructure Fund headquarters in Ikoyi. Security rails formed lanes for media vans, staff, and the public who had wandered from bars, churches, and living rooms to witness the sort of night their grandchildren would be told about. Street vendors hovered at the edge, ready to turn history into roasted corn and bottled water if the crowd exhaled all at once. Inside, Amara stood in a bright, spare conference room with glass walls. The red envelope lay on the table, dried and a little wrinkled. Beside it, she had arranged a small army of evidence: photocopies of the visitor pass bearing Sloan Hart's name, stills of weapon serial numbers, screenshots of Guara Holdings' corporate chain, and the one document that removed every shadow: beneficial ownership listing Cole Strategic Partners, above Guara like a roof. Asha watched her, a silent guardian in a navy wrap. Kelechi sat on the edge of the table, laptop open, cables spilling like vines, his hoodie damp at the cuffs. On the screen, a dashboard of mirrored backups spun like a constellation, every file saved in 3 places, then 3 more. "I've printed, I've mirrored, I've off-sited," he said without looking up. "Even if someone pulls the plug on Tinubu Square, we can show a PDF on a wall with a flashlight." Amara gave a thin smile. "Let's hope it doesn't come to torches." The Inspector General's deputy stepped in with 2 officers and a soft tread. "Perimeter is tight. The President's office is concerned about market reaction in the morning. They're asking if your statement can be softened." Asha snorted. "You cannot soften a gun truck." The deputy's phone buzzed. He read the message, then lifted his eyes. "Blue Wave's lawyers just filed an ex parte motion. A night judge granted an interim order to restrain the fund from making any termination pronouncements pending determination. They're moving a bailiff through the crowd now." Kelechi looked up. "They found a judge at 11:45? Lagos never sleeps." Amara reached for the envelope, then stopped, breathing once like a swimmer measuring waves. "Clause 73 is in the Charter, and in our enabling statute," she said. "No court can restrain a statutory emergency power executed on integrity risk. Tonight, if necessary, I will read the clause before I read the termination." Asha's mouth pulled into something like pride. "Make it law class on the steps." The deputy nodded. "We'll escort the bailiff to you. No scuffles." He paused. "Are you ready for the cameras, Ma?" Amara lifted the envelope, then pressed a fingertip along its edge, like someone checking the sharpness of steel. "I've been ready since the moment a woman thought wine could make another woman small," she said. "Let's go." They moved through a short corridor that opened into the lobby. Glass doors framed the plaza like a stage. The noise outside was steady, generators humming, reporters testing microphones, a small crowd chanting something that kept shifting shape. "No guns in our ports." Then, "Do the right thing." Then, "Clause 73. Darius Cole's face glowed on a mounted TV across the lobby. Live from a different studio, a different room, a different world. He sat before a tasteful bookshelf and a flag. The Chiron read, "Blue Wave CEO. We're cooperating fully." "Let me be clear," he was saying, voice measured silk. "Blue Wave is as shocked as anyone about a rogue shipment. We are working with the authorities, and we will terminate anyone responsible if our partners in government do not politicize this for their own gain." The presenter leaned in. "Mr. Cole, is it true your wife, the fund chair, is considering canceling the $8.4 billion concession tonight?" Darius' jaw flexed once, then smooth again. "I'm hearing the same rumors you are," he said with a sympathetic look he had purchased long ago. "I hope she remembers the jobs and the power we bring. But I married a woman of principle. I pray she uses it wisely." Kelechi made a face at the screen. "He sells poison," and asks if you'd like some water. Amara didn't look at the TV again. She walked to the doors and out into the bright night. The press pen shivered with pivoting cameras. Flash popped like lightning trapped at ground level. Microphones extended toward her name. If you watch the footage later, you'll see the moment Lagos chose, when the chair didn't shrink from light. "Good evening," Amara said, voice carrying across metal and rain. "We will begin with facts." She didn't start with anger. She didn't start with humiliation. She started with the truck. "At 21:43, she said, in Yard C of the Blue Wave concession site, a vehicle listed as carrying water pumps was opened by security in the presence of the Fund, Navy, Customs, and Police. Inside, we found disassembled rifles, pistols with filed serials, and forged documents authorizing prototype security equipment. We also found a visitor pass to Blue Wave HQ bearing the name Sloan Hart." The crowd shifted like a single body finding a spine. Microphones leaned, cameras crept closer on their little rubber feet. "We have secured the yard and initiated an independent investigation," Amara continued. "As of an hour ago, Blue Wave operations are frozen. No trucks move, no cranes lift. The nation's safety is not collateral for anyone's ambition." A lawyerly cough sounded at her elbow. A small man in an expensive suit, hair like a ruler, held out a white envelope like a holy wafer. "Order of the High Court," he said to the cameras first, so everyone would know how important he was. "Restraining the chair from prejudicial termination." The deputy took the envelope and handed it to Asha, who skimmed it with a glance and the sort of sigh that suggested she'd known this exact play would come. "Counsel," Amara said gently, taking one step closer so he would have to look at her eyes, "the charter of the fund contains Clause 73. It grants the chair emergency authority to suspend or cancel projects in the presence of integrity risk beyond a defined threshold. Armed contraband in a misdeclared truck meets that threshold. The court, with respect, cannot restrain the operation of a statute protecting national safety. You are free to challenge my action in daylight. Tonight, I must act." The lawyer opened his mouth, closed it, then held his envelope like a shield and retreated 2 steps into the safer light of other people's cameras. A reporter with a braided bob lifted her mic. "Madam Chair, are you accusing Blue Wave of smuggling weapons?" "I'm saying what we found," Amara said. "I'm saying it was inside their yard. I'm saying the letter authorizing the movement was forged. I'm saying a pass with a name we recognize was in the crate with cash. I'm saying the supply chain of a company called Guara Holdings, registered last month in Mauritius, threads into Blue Wave's procurement line like a root." Another hand. "Do you have proof of Guara's ownership?" Amara lifted a plastic sleeve, the paper within sealed against the humidity. "Yes," Flash popped. Somewhere behind the camera line, a cheer broke from the watching crowd. "And," she said, and now her voice turned from calm to iron, "we have proof of Guara's beneficial owner." She didn't say the name yet. She let a hush carve its way across the plaza. Even the generator seemed to lower its hum for a heartbeat. Then she raised the red envelope. "Pursuant to Clause 73 of the Marula Charter," she said, "in response to a clear integrity risk that endangers public safety and the reputation of our union, and following consultation with board representatives and law enforcement, the fund hereby—" Across the plaza, engines growled. A black police pickup rolled to the curb and stopped hard. Officers jumped down with a man between them in cuffs, jacket open, face gray. The Blue Wave Chief Procurement Officer, Onanuga, eyes skittering like moths against glass. The deputy stepped forward, instinct in his body. Hold the line. Keep distance. Onanuga looked across the bright, noisy space and found only one thing to cling to. He lunged toward the microphones as far as the cuffs allowed. "I will talk," he yelled, voice cracking. "But it will kill me." Cameras pivoted. Phones rose like 1,000 small suns. Sloane wasn't there, but her perfume seemed to move through the crowd anyway. Danger with a bright bottle. "Mr. Onanuga," a reporter shouted. "Who forged the letter? Who ordered the truck?" He swallowed. "They used my login," he said. "They told me to sign. The special projects budget covers it. Blue Wave Management said it was for perimeter security. An off-book test." His eyes flicked, hunting for courage. "Ask Sloane Hart about White Cola," he blurted. "Ask her about that name." "White Cola," Asha repeated. The words hung strange and domestic, like something you drink with friends. Wrong in this place. Onanuga's mouth trembled. He looked at Amara. "They told me if I spoke, the first thing that would happen is that—" He swallowed again, as if memory had turned to sand in his throat. "I'm sorry." A ripple went through the crowd, part pity, part suspicion, part hunger for the next piece of story. The deputy gestured. "Take him inside," he said. "Protective custody." An officer took Onanuga's elbow. The man sagged. "I'm tired," he whispered, into his chest, to himself, to the cameras. No one could tell. He swayed once, twice. Then he collapsed. It wasn't dramatic. It was frightening for how ordinary it looked. Knees buckled. Shoulders hit concrete. A murmur rolled as officers moved, as someone yelled for a medic, as a police cloak tried to become a cushion. "Back up!" the deputy barked, voice cutting through heat and curiosity. Amara took one step forward, instinct all human. Then she stopped, because this moment belonged to medics and process. She turned to the cameras with a steadiness that had to be borrowed from somewhere deep. "We do not trample sick men," she said. "We also do not trample the truth." Asha's phone vibrated hard. She looked, then shoved the screen toward Kelechi. A message had arrived from an unknown address with a link and a line. "See what your saints do in the dark." Kelechi tapped. A video filled the phone. Grainy, night vision. The lonely green of things seen by a machine. It showed a hand placing an envelope through a slightly open office door. The caption on the video read, "Senator Obani, private drop." The next frame cut to a bank transfer screenshot. Obani Consults Ltd. Received NGN 420,000 from Clear River Logistics. Asha's eyes shot to Senator Obani, who had arrived quietly and stood inside the lobby now, framed by glass like a man in a painting. He stared back at the phone, then at Amara. His face looked older than it had an hour ago. The video wasn't proof. It was story bait, cut and pasted to tell a particular tale. But the numbers, the direction, the name of Clear River, the same crane in the Guara chain, those things stuck like burrs. Kelechi's fingers flew on his keyboard. Could be deep fake. Could be a smear. Could be true. Give me 60 seconds. No. Give me 10 minutes. "We don't have 10, Asha murmured. A chant rose from the far edge of the plaza. "Name them! Name them!" It built itself from anger and curiosity and broken trust. Amara lifted the red envelope again, because the only way out was through. She spoke, so the cameras would carry it to the last room holding its breath. "The fund hereby terminates the Blue Wave Ports concession under Clause 73, she said. "Clean, clear, so there would be no confusion in the morning. We will refer all evidence to joint authorities and invite international oversight. Jobs will be protected through an emergency retendering. No one will profit from fear. Flash stitched the night. Someone clapped once, then more hands joined. Then stopped, because the plaza seemed to remember that applause can feel cheap when the ground is shifting under your shoes. Darius's voice rose again from the lobby TV behind her, speaking over a delay, a parallel universe that didn't know what had just happened outside. "I have nothing to hide," he said, hands open, eyes kind. "If my wife must do what she believes, I will accept it. And we will fix this together." As if the city had been waiting for his cue, a convoy eased to the curb, sleek SUVs, windows dark. Sloane stepped out first, all decisive heels and patent calm. She threaded through the gap the police made without asking. Cameras tilted like flowers seeking the sun. She didn't look at Amara. She looked at the crowd, at the microphones, at the night. Then she lifted a hand, and a man behind her, clean cut, earpiece tucked, tapped a tablet. Across the fund facade, the temporary LED banner that had been looping statements and the Union crest flickered. The crowd made the soft O of people who see something beautiful and don't yet know if it is a blessing or a curse. The screen stabilized on a document header. Guara Holdings, beneficial ownership. The same document Kelechi had mirrored, the same one in Amara's sleeve. For a heartbeat, Amara thought Sloane had lost her mind and was about to confirm her own ruin. Then, before the heading could scroll, a second overlay slid in. Bold, clean, certain. Beneficial owner. Obaniyi Consults Ltd. The plaza inhaled. Heads snapped toward the lobby glass where Senator Obaniyi stood. Even the medics paused with Onanuga. Not for long, just long enough for a dangerous heartbeat. "That's fabricated," Asha said, voice tight. "They're shifting the stain." The overlay shrank into the corner, and a crisp video began to play. Senator Obaniyi walking into a dim office at night, placing a manila envelope on a desk, leaving without looking back. A date stamp glowed in fake green. The caption read, "The night the board sold the nation." The crowd's murmur shifted into something uglier, confusion mixing with suspicion until it foamed. Obaniyi stepped forward into the light inside the lobby. He didn't lift his hands the way Darius would have. He placed his palms against the glass like a defendant testing a cell he hadn't entered yet. His eyes found Amara's. "It isn't me," he said, quietly, without PR, mouth shaping the truth like a prayer or a plea. Kelechi's fingers hammered keys. "The timestamp font is wrong. The lens distortion doesn't match the security model for that building. The shadow angles, give me 30 more seconds." Too late for 30. The chant at the rail found a new word. Names burred into consonants. "Obaniyi! Obaniyi!" Sloane stepped one toe into the press pen, a perfect crescent of concern around her lips. "This is tragic," she said to the nearest microphone, a voice oiled for sympathy. "It appears corruption runs deeper than anyone imagined. We at Blue Wave will always stand with truth." Asha moved like a blade. "You will step back," she said, not loud, and still everyone heard. "You will not make a stage from our steps." Sloane's eyes flicked once toward Asha's face, then returned to the camera as if the other woman were an itch. "I'm here as a citizen," she said, "and as a witness. In fact," she glanced at her earpiece man, "we have obtained messages that suggest the chair planned to leverage this scandal for personal." "Enough," Amara said, not raising her voice, ending the sentence for the whole city. "Tonight I canceled a contract that threatened public safety. Smears will come. We will meet them with process. Mr. Cole, Ms. Hart, you will comply with the freeze. Senator Obaniyi?" she turned, speaking through glass to a man she had believed to be careful and clean. "You will submit your accounts for review before dawn." "I will," he said, and for that moment at least, he sounded like someone who had nothing to hide and everything to lose. A medic called out, "He's breathing." The plaza exhaled some of its panic. The ugliest things lie in that edge between fear and not yet. Police edged Sloane's team back a half step. The deputy made a little circle with two fingers that meant, "Tighten, don't escalate." Overhead, clouds thinned to let a few brave stars look down. Amara's phone buzzed again. A new email, subject line simple as a match head. White cola. No sender, no preamble. Just a single attachment and 6 words in the body. "Whoever drinks never sleeps again." She felt the city tilting under her feet, the way a ship warns before it takes a wave. She forwarded the file to Kelechi with one gesture, still holding the mic. He opened it. His face changed. "It's not a drink," he said softly. "White cola is a code name. For a shipment series, not weapons." He squinted. "Components. Signal nodes. They mesh with crane control. If you seed a port with these, you can shut it from anywhere. Or move things through without logs ever seeing." "Cyberchoke," Asha whispered. "Turn the lights out on a coastline. Or open gates for anything you want." Kelechi scrolled. And a calendar. 3 ports, 3 nights, Lagos, then Tema, then Abidjan, starting tonight, at 1:05 a.m. As if all of them felt the same cold at the same time, the plaza fell quiet enough to hear the soft electrical click of the LED wall as it looped back to the crest. Amara looked past the cameras, past the rails, past the glass where Obani stood with his palms against a future that felt suddenly thinner. She looked at the city. "We end it now," she said, to the deputy. He nodded. "We throw the circuit breakers on Blue Wave's control rooms, seize their servers, and lock the gantries. Navy stays on water." "Do it," she said. "And put a team on every White Cola site before 1:05. He moved, already making the night a net. Amara turned back to the microphones one last time, because power isn't just what you do. It's what you say before and after you do it. "For those who are watching," she said, and her voice gentled, "no child will ever be used as a lever against this country again. No contract will be too big to cancel. And no smear will distract us from the truth we can prove." She closed the red envelope at last, not because the words inside weren't done, but because she had said them aloud and made them live. Somewhere behind the press, someone started clapping, not loud, not trying to own the sound, just a steady beat that other hands found and followed until it was too many to call polite. The TV in the lobby showed Darius's face again, working to catch up to a reality that had run past him. He smiled his careful smile. He said kind things. He sold himself as a bridge, while the city learned he had wanted a lock. The medic lifted a hand. "We're moving him," she said, and Onanuga was eased onto a stretcher, an oxygen mask fogging lightly. The deputy's radio crackled a code that made his jaw flex. He stepped close. "We have eyes on the White Cola nodes in Lagos," he said. 2 teams in place. 1 site, gone. Wiped. "Which one?" Asha asked. "The maintenance annex beside Blue Wave's control room, the one with the mural of cranes." Kelechi's laptop pinged. He stared. "And one of our backups. Just vanished," he said. "Not the files. Those are safe. Our mirrored access tokens. Someone is in the system with us." Amara nodded. The way you nod when night gives you one more test. "We'll work offline. Paper beats ghosts." A shout went up from the far side of the plaza by the smaller gate, spreading like ripples against stone. Heads turned. Phones rose. Sloane's earpiece man said something into his sleeve. Asha's eyes narrowed. Across the street, a second convoy eased into view. Unmarked SUVs, satin paint that swallowed light. Doors opened in a choreography that said the drivers had practiced. Men and women in dark suits stepped out with no crests on their lapels, and the plaza felt a new gravity, the kind of hush a room learns when it realizes the guest list just changed. At their center walked a slim woman in a gray suit, hair natural and neat, face unreadable, the way a lake looks calm even when it's cold. She lifted a badge just once for the deputy to see. Low and private. "Who is that?" Asha asked under her breath. The deputy's mouth compressed. "International partner," he said, not naming which alphabet. "They want a word." The woman in gray approached the microphones, not to take them, only to be heard by the people who mattered. She looked at Amara, at the red envelope, at the LED wall, at the city. "Chair Okafor-Cole," she said, voice even. "We've been following White Cola for 9 months. It doesn't end at ports." "Where does it end?" Amara asked. The woman's eyes shifted to the crowd and back. "If you want to keep your people calm," she said quietly, "you'll come inside. We'll show you what happens at 1:05 if we're 10 minutes late." A tremor went through the plaza. The kind that comes when thunder speaks in the distance, and everyone wonders which way the wind will throw it. Kelechi's laptop beeped again. Mara," he said. And when he called her that, it was always childhood and warning together. The White Cola schedule, someone just pushed an update. Lagos moved up. 1:05 is now 12:50. Amara checked the clock on the lobby wall. 12:42. 8 minutes. She turned to the cameras, to the city, to the knight that had put on a suit and come to stand very close. "We are going inside to shut something down," she said. "Pray if you pray. Watch if you watch. Hold your leaders tight and your rumors looser. We will be back." She stepped from the microphones. The deputy matched her pace. Asha fell in on her left. Kelechi came with his laptop pressed to his chest like a drum. The woman in gray pivoted, already moving, already opening a door into a room where the lights were too bright. Behind them, Sloane lifted her chin and smiled a little smile that did not reach her eyes. Darius's comment feed lit up with hearts and disbelief, the way a story does when it stops being a story and steps into your house with wet feet. The lobby doors closed on the plaza's hum, and 8 minutes ticked toward a city that might go dark if power decided it still knew how. If you're locked in, tap the like button and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Before we continue, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. In Amara's place tonight, what would you have done? Terminate the deal immediately, or wait until every threat is neutralized? Have you ever seen power try to embarrass someone in public like this? Share your thoughts below, and share this video with a friend who needs to see it. The fluorescent lights inside the fund's command suite hummed like nervous bees. Screens glowed against glass walls. Men and women in tactical jackets moved in fast, tight arcs, voices low but sharp. The woman in gray, the foreign liaison, stood at the central table, a tablet in her hand showing a world map webbed with red pulses. Amara stepped in first. "What happens at 1:05? The woman turned the tablet toward her. The White Cola nodes weren't built to move goods. They're signal relays. They ride the same network Blue Wave installed for crane automation. If those relays go live, every crane, every customs gate, every manifest terminal from here to Tima locks itself. For 90 minutes the ports go blind, and anything can pass through. Weapons, currency, people. We think it's an export of chaos. Chair Okafor-Cole. Asha whispered. An inside blackout. Kelechi's fingers flew across his keyboard. They're already pinging our local nodes. Someone's tunneling in through the maintenance annex, the one that's wiped. The deputy barked orders into his radio. Teams Bravo and Delta, move to the annex, now. Amara leaned over the table. Can we cut the relay physically? The woman in gray nodded once. If you break the uplink fiber, the network dies, but it's buried in Blue Wave's control room. Then that's where we go, Amara said. The deputy frowned. It's hostile territory, Ma. The CEO's men still control the building. Amara's tone didn't rise. Then we take back what belongs to the nation. They reached the control complex at 12:48. Floodlights washed the yard in colorless glare. Rain steamed off hot generators. Officers in body armor spread around the perimeter. Inside, servers blinked in rows, humming with borrowed power. Kelechi pointed. That rack, fiber uplink. We cut there, we end the relay. The woman in gray checked her watch. 7 minutes. A security engineer knelt by the cabinet, tools clinking. Lock code active. Remote override engaged. Kelechi crouched beside him. Give me 60 seconds. His hands blurred. Green code scrolled. Then, click. The panel released. Got it, he said. But before he could pull the fiber, the screens around them flared white. A new window bloomed across every monitor. Remote session active. Blue Wave operations. Admin DC Cole. Darius's voice filled the room, smooth as ever, coming through the speakers. Mara, I told you this wasn't how to end things. You still have time to walk away. Shut this down, and I'll bury what you've done. Keep going, and the world will watch your country collapse. Amara stepped toward the nearest camera. You built a network to sell sovereignty by the crate. Tonight, it ends. You can't stop me, he said. You're too late. Kelechi's monitor beeped. He's pushing a manual trigger. The uplink's going live. Amara nodded to the engineer. Cut it! The man yanked the cable. Sparks spat. The lights flickered, then steadied. For a moment, nothing. Then Kelechi's laptop pinged a final time. Signal dropped. The relay's dead. Outside, the crane lights across the lagoon dimmed, then held steady in normal operation. Cheers erupted from the security team. Asha exhaled a prayer under her breath. The deputy spoke into his radio. All nodes secure. No blackout. The woman in gray smiled faintly. You just stopped a continental hijack. Amara looked up at the camera, still glowing red. It's over, Darius. But his voice came again, lower now. Not for me. A distant sound crackled through the feed. Sirens, footsteps. I always leave myself one door. The screens went black. By dawn, the city smelled of wet dust and diesel. The press outside the fund gates shouted questions as Amara and Asha stepped out beneath a sky-streaked rose and gray. Reporters jostled forward. Madam Chair, is the Blue Wave CEO under arrest? Where is Sloan Hart? Was tonight a coup attempt or corruption cover-up? Amara paused at the microphone one last time. Last night, people tried to steal our ports with code and fear. They failed because ordinary officers, engineers, and citizens stood firm. The investigation continues. The fund will protect every honest worker. And let this be clear. No one is too rich to face the truth. Flashbulbs burst like fireworks. Behind her, Asha whispered, The lioness roars. Amara allowed herself a small smile. And the forest listens. Hours later, in a quiet hospital room, she found Taufik asleep, a cast on his wrist where rope had burned him. She sat beside him, smoothing his hair, her own reflection pale in the window. Kelechi's message buzzed on her phone. Interpol picked him up at Murtala Muhammad. Darius tried to board a jet. They have Sloan, too. Amara typed back, "Let the law finish what we started." Outside, the city was already stirring. Hawkers calling, horns arguing, cranes rising like steel trees in the pale light. She closed her eyes for a moment, hearing the child's slow breathing, the distant heartbeat of Lagos, and the faint echo of a wine glass breaking at a gala that felt like another lifetime. The sun rose over Lagos like a verdict, gold over gray, peace over wreckage. The city looked ordinary again, but the night had changed it forever. Amara stood on the balcony of the fund's 12th floor, watching barges crawl across the water. Her phone vibrated with endless calls, ministers, journalists, foreign envoys, but for once, she didn't rush to answer. She'd been awake for 30 hours straight. The fight was finally over. Or so she hoped. Behind her, Asha entered, holding 2 folders and a cup of black tea. Interpol confirmed it, she said quietly. Darius and Sloan are in custody. They tried to bribe their way out at the airport. Amara turned. And the files? Kelechi's voice came from the doorway, hoarse but triumphant. All secure. The servers we seized contained invoices for 12 other dummy corporations, everyone linked back to Darius's holding company. They planned to replicate Blue Wave in Kenya, Ghana, Tanzania. Everywhere ports were about to modernize. Asha placed the folders on the table. But thanks to you, they can't anymore. The union has voted unanimously to back your reforms. The president called you a national hero. Amara smiled faintly, the kind of smile that cost strength. There are no heroes, Asha. Only people who decide not to stay silent. She turned toward the window again. Have they confessed? Kelechi nodded. Sloan folded first. She admitted Darius designed the Guara shell to launder illegal defense shipments under infrastructure testing. The weapons were to be smuggled into conflict zones. White Cola was their fail-safe, a blackout program to blind customs when shipments moved. And the boy? Amara asked softly. Taufik's family was relocated to a safe home, Asha said. He starts school next week. The fund paid his scholarship in your name. Amara's throat tightened. He'll never have to see water through wood again. For a long moment, the three stood silent. The rain had stopped. The sea breeze smelled like renewal. Later that afternoon, the press gathered again on the fund's plaza. This time, not for chaos, but for closure. Amara stepped to the same podium where she'd once fought humiliation and fear. The red envelope, the symbol of her courage, lay in her hand, sealed again, but empty inside. Citizens of our union, she began, her voice calm but steady. You have witnessed what happens when power loses conscience. But you've also seen what happens when integrity stands its ground. The crowd listened, motionless. Last night, she continued, a network designed to enslave our ports was dismantled by people who refused to sell their souls, not by bullets, but by truth. The individuals responsible, Darius Cole and Sloan Hart, will face prosecution. The fund has launched a transparent investigation into all related entities. The Blue Wave project will be reborn by honest hands for honest workers. She lifted the red envelope. And to every woman who has ever been mocked, belittled, or publicly humiliated, remember this. Dignity, once taken, can be rebuilt stronger than before. When the wine dries, when the laughter fades, truth remains. Applause broke like thunder. A reporter shouted, Madam Chair, What would you say to those who still doubt your decision? Amara looked directly into the cameras. I'd say the same thing I told them in that ballroom. I didn't come this far to ask for permission. I came to remind them that no one, no billionaire, no mistress, no judge, outranks the truth. She set the red envelope on the podium and walked away. 2 weeks later, the courtroom was packed. Darius Cole sat in the defendant's chair, a man stripped of his armor. The judge read the charges: fraud, smuggling, attempted sabotage, conspiracy. Sloane avoided Amara's gaze. When it was over, the verdict echoed through marble. Guilty. Outside, reporters swarmed, microphones flashing. But Amara didn't stay for interviews. She slipped quietly into the street where Taoufik waited with his aunt. The boy ran up to her and hugged her waist. "You kept your promise," he said. She smiled. "And you kept your faith." They walked a few steps together. He looked up at her. "Auntie, are you still the chair?" "Yes," she said, "but not just of the fund." She looked toward the harbor. "I'm chair of my own peace now." That night, Lagos was quiet. The headlines screamed her name, but she didn't read them. She sat by her window, watching the port lights blink in steady rhythm. Order reclaimed from chaos. Her phone buzzed one last time. A message from Kelechi. "Clause 73 worked, but I think the real clause is you." She smiled, typing back, "A lioness doesn't roar to be heard. She roars to remind the forest that silence belongs to her." And with that, she turned off the phone, closed her eyes, and let the city finally rest. If you followed Amara's story to the end, tap the like button and subscribe for more powerful African stories of courage and truth. Where are you watching from? Would you have handled Darius the same way she did, or gone further? Share your thoughts below, and let's hear your roar in the comments.